In this video, you are going to learn the best beginner-friendly chess openings with white and black pieces. If you want to improve your chess and increase your rating, you need to have a particular opening. And in the end of the video, I'm also going to give you a complete idea about how you can further improve your chess opening and master it. So let's begin. Opening number 1, the London system. It's an opening that you play with the white pieces. You start by pushing your pawn, d4, d5, and now you simply play bishop to f4, first developing the bishop. If you try to play e3, you will realize the bishop on c1 is simply a bad piece. So that's why you first develop your bishop to f4. We have knight to f6, and now we play e3, and now we simply play c3. Why do we play e3 and c3? Basically, we are simply aiming for this very solid setup by putting our pawns on c3 and e3. Black tries to develop the bishop, we develop our knight, e6, and we simply develop another knight to d2. Bishop goes to d6, attacking the bishop on f4. We simply ignore the threat because the bishop on f4 is simply protected by the e3 pawn. We simply focus on developing our pieces, which is the basic fundamental in the game of opening. Simply developing the bishop. If black goes for capturing the bishop, we simply capture it back with the pawn. Castle up, we also castle up. h6, we simply develop the rook to e1. a6, we simply play the move g3. Why g3? Because after g3, we simply protect the pawn on f4. We are doing nothing special, just simply developing the pieces. Rook to c8, rook to c1. Knight goes to e7, and just knight to e5. You see, white has done nothing special, just focusing on developing his pieces. He developed the bishop, he developed his knight, we simply developed the rook. And now finally, as all our pieces have already been developed, we are trying to improve our pieces by putting the knight in the center of the square. Knight to e5, c6, just knight to f3, queen to c7, and now finally bishop to d3. And after bishop d3, you can already realize white is having not a single weakness in his position, whereas his pieces are nicely placed, well centralized pieces. Bishop to d3, and it's a perfectly fine position to play with the white pieces. It's a very annoying opening for your opponent because the winning chances for your opponent already decreases the moment you play the London system. And it's a very flexible opening, it's a very beginner friendly opening because all you have to do is simply develop your pieces. So that's exactly what happens in the London system. Opening number 2, the Scandinavian defense. It's an opening that you play with the black pieces. White starts with 1 e4 and you reply with d5. You allow your opponent to capture the d-pawn. We simply capture it back with the queen. Knight to c3, and now we finally simply go back with the queen to d8. White simply develops with knight to f3. It looks like we are simply giving the upper hand to white as he's simply developing his pieces. But guys, don't worry, nothing is going to happen. We are simply first going to develop our knight. White tries to push the pawn to d4, trying to control the center. We simply play the move c6. Why c6? c6 is a very important move in this position as it covers the d5 square, and it also makes an important square for the queen to go on c7 in the future. So bishop to e2, and now we first develop the bishop to g4. We want to play the move e6, but we can't because the bishop on c8 would be simply a bad piece. So that's why we first develop the bishop, castle up. We now finally play the move e6, h3. If the bishop is attacked and there is no pin available as the bishop is already on e2, we are pretty fine of capturing the knight. Bishop cross f3, bishop to e7, simply developing the pieces. Bishop to g5, castle up, rook to e1, simply knight d7. Doing nothing special, just developing the pieces. White tries to play rook to c1, rook to e8, simply developing the rook, queen to d3, and now finally h6. h6 is a very essential move. Why? Because after you play the move h6, there is never going to be a backring mate as you're already having the square of h7. It attacks the bishop. If the bishop goes back, you can simply play the move knight to f8. Why knight f8? Because after bishop f4, black has already developed all his pieces. The knight on d7 is currently doing nothing, so it's better to put the knight on f8. Why? Because we want to put the knight on g6, which attacks the bishop on f4. Rook goes to d1, knight to g6. Not only it attacks the bishop on f4, but it also defends the king on g8. Bishop goes back to h2. We play the move bishop d6. We are fine with the bishop trade. Knight to e4. We are fine with the knight trade. And simply knight e7. Why? Because currently white is threatening to capture the knight. We can simply play the move knight to e7. White tries to go c3. Just rook d8. Just look at this position. Black has developed all his pieces. His queen and the rooks are nicely well centralized. You are always having some breaks in the endgame, like c5 and e5 breaks that can put pressure on the queen and the rook. In the endgame, there is a saying that the knight and queen combination is much better than the bishop and the queen. So already, I would definitely prefer black in this particular position. So it's an opening that you can play with the black pieces, which is a very solid, a beginner-friendly opening. Opening number 3, the pug defense. It's an opening that you play with the black pieces, and it doesn't matter whatever white plays. White can play e4, d4, we do not really care. For example, e4, we play the move g6, allowing white to play the d4, basically it transposes. We play the move d6, knight to c3, we develop the bishop to g7, and now white is having two options. For example, if white first goes for the move knight to f3, simply developing the knight. We play the move c6, and this is the key move in order to play the pug defense, or you can say the modern defense. So after c6, what is the idea? After c6, for example, if white continues with bishop to d3, we simply develop the knight to d7 first. At the place of developing the knight to f6, we first develop the knight to d7. White castle up, and now we can simply develop the knight to f6. And now we have the move rook e1. If white tries to go for playing the move e5, attacking the knight on f6, nothing is happening. We can simply capture the pawn takes, and simply knight g4. Simply knight g4. And after knight g4, the pawn is attacked 3 times, and there is only one defender. Black is already pretty fine. So white have to play the move rook e1 with the idea of threatening e5. So the moment you feel that now white is going to play the move e5 on the next move, it's better for you to play the move e5 by yourself. What is the idea? After e5, if white takes the pawn, you take it back with the knight. White takes it back, d cross e5. White simply develops the piece by bishop e3. You simply castle up. And what is the idea now? After castle up, you are simply going to put the queen on c7, which is the best square for the queen. You are simply going to develop your bishop to e6, and you are having an absolutely fine position with no weaknesses. And yeah, this is the perfect opening that you can get, like if you're a beginner. You have developed all your pieces. Your king is pretty safe on the king side. No particular weaknesses, and yeah, you're good to go for further continuing the possession. So this is exactly how you play the pug defense. Another way is to play like e4, g6, d4, d6, knight c3, bishop g7. And for example, at the place of the knight f3, if white tries to go for playing the move bishop e3, which is one of the ways for white to continue the possession, we are going to play the move c6, queen to d2, and now b5. What is the idea? This is the usual idea in the pug defense. a3, bishop to b7. So why a3? Basically, white's stopping black from playing the move b4. So a3, we develop the bishop to b7. f3, we develop our knight to d7. Bishop goes to d3, and now we have the move a6. a6 basically ensures that we are protecting the b5 pawn. a4, just developing the knight to f6. Knight to e2, and now finally we have the move e5. e5 is a break that you must need in the future. For example, castle up, you can castle up. If ab5, takes, and this is an absolutely fine position. Why? Because you have developed all your pieces, your king has been castled up, you are having more space on the queen side. If you are having more space on the queen side, it means that you are having more squares to control on the queen side, which is a good thing. And it's already pretty comfortable position for black with absolutely no weaknesses. As you can see, white is having very minimalistic space in the center and on the queen side. So that's why white's pieces are all cozy up. But black is having more space on the queen side, which gives black the advantage on the queen side. So that's pretty good and a very flexible opening to play with the black pieces, as it doesn't matter whatever white plays, e4 or d4. So this is how exactly you play the pug defense. Opening number 4, the Caro-Kann defense. It's an opening that you play with the black pieces, and this opening is so much popular that even top grandmaster play this opening often. White starts with 1 e4, we play the move c6, d4, and now we play the move d5. And obviously white is having many options to continue the game. For example, if white starts with knight c3, we simply capture the pawn, knight cross e4, and we simply develop the knight. Allowing white to capture the knight takes. Knight to f3, we simply develop the bishop to d3, we simply castle up, and now we simply pin this knight on f3 with the bishop. h3, we simply keep the pin by simply going back with bishop h5, rook e1, simply developing the knight. c3, developing the queen. After we develop the queen, you can realize that we have already connected the rooks, which is a good thing. Bishop to d2, and now we simply play the move rook to e8, simply getting the rook into the game. And after rook e8, black is once again having a perfect position with absolutely no weaknesses. And a good idea for black to continue the game would be maybe bishop g6 or even g6, maybe bishop g6, f5, knight f6, knight e4. Centralizing the knight, and black is having an absolutely fine position. That's exactly how you can play if your opponent plays the move knight to c3. If your opponent plays the move e5, advancing the pawn, you can first develop your bishop. We want to play the move e6, but we can't because the bishop on c8 would be simply a bad piece. So that's why we first develop the bishop. White develops the knight. We push the pawn. White tries to offer a bishop trade. We are pretty happy with the trade. And now we finally play the move c5. Why c5? After c5, you will realize that we have already made a square for the knight to go on c6, which is a good square. c3, knight to c6, castle up. We capture on d4. Why? I want to play the move knight e7, but I can't because white would be a pawn up. So if you are a beginner, just simply capture the pawn. C cross g4, develop the knight on e7. And you will realize the d4 pawn is simply a weakness. Why? Because there is no e3 or c3 pawn to defend the pawn. So eventually, in the endgame, when there are minimum pieces on the board, the d4 pawn is going to become a weakness for sure. So after knight e7, if white develops with knight c3, we can play knight f5, putting pressure. Bishop e3, we can play bishop e7, rook c1, simply castle up. Black has once again done nothing fancy, just developing the pieces. Rook d1, capture on e3, that's fine. fe3, rook c8, trying to get putting the rook on an open file. a3, just knight f5. This is the usual idea that black goes for. As you will notice, we are having a strong pawn on d5, which covers the c4 square. That's exactly why we are going to play the move knight to a5, with the idea of playing the knight to c4, attacking the pawn on b2. A normal idea for black would be to simply play queen b6, double up the rook on the c file, knight c4, and basically playing on the queen side, and black is eventually having absolutely no problem in this particular opening. That's exactly how you're going to play if your opponent plays the move e5. Finally, discussing what happens if white simply captures the pawn on d5. We simply capture it back, knight to f3, knight to c6, knight c3, just developing the knights, pinning up the knight, bishop e3, pushing up the pawn to just develop the bishop. Castle up, put the bishop on d6, h3, simply come back with the bishop, keeping the pin alive. Rook e1, simply castle up. Rook c1, simply put the rook on an open file. That's a very good idea. Bishop e2, h6. Why h6? After h6, you are first of all stopping this annoying pin, and second, in the endgame, there is absolutely no chance for opponent to give you a backrank mate, as you are already having this h7 square available for your king. After h6, maybe a3, just rook e8, and after rook e8, black has developed all his pieces, and black is having an absolutely fine position. That's exactly how you can play this Caro-Kann defense opening. And finally, how can you improve your opening and master it? So the best advice that I would like to give you guys, if you are playing the London system, watch the games of London systems of top players like Anish Giri, maybe Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen is one of the specialists in the London system. Watch the games, try to understand the logic and the reason behind each and every move. Eventually, if you watch even 100 games in the London system, you would get a complete idea about all the ideas that exist in the London system with the white pieces, and eventually you can master it, you can implement those ideas in your games, and that's how you can improve. And eventually, always analyze your games once your game has been ended. Try to understand where did you went wrong and try not to repeat those mistakes in the future. So that's it for this video. I hope that I have given you a complete idea about this basic openings. If it was insightful, make sure to like, share and subscribe. I'm going to come up with these more insightful chess videos like this. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching One Shot Chess. Bye bye.